It serves me right. When I sit down to play something modern, what do I get? A 90 gig update? Having to log into some account I made months ago. And then a pop-up asking $50 to buy a battle pass. By the time I actually get into the game, I'm already frustrated and start scrolling on my phone. Then I look over at my dusty old NES and think, you know what? How about no patches, no subscriptions, and some old school games that are just more fun? I don't know about you, but sometimes I want to just punch in that code for Contra and sit back for 20 minutes, blasting away and enjoying the experience. So I went back. I replayed those classics to see which ones are still worth your time. And honestly, I was worried. Would they hold up? Or would the difficulty and clunky controls shatter those perfect memories I've been carrying for over 30 years? Let's find out together in this Retro Gaming Boss countdown of the top 10 NES games that still deliver the goods today. So quick, let's get to the main course, and trust me, the debates will start immediately with number 10. So number 10 is Zelda II, The Adventures of Link. Now, if you're a Zelda fan, you love this one or have some strong opinions about it. And that's because it was a massive departure. Remember the feel of the first Zelda? The top-down exploration. This one throws a curveball. The overworld is still there, but it's zoomed out. And the second you touch an enemy or enter a cave, it switches to a side-scrolling platformer. Here's what's wild about it though. Those side-scrolling sections? The graphics are incredibly clean and detailed. They still look good today. But the tricky part is the combat. It's tough. It's an RPG platformer hybrid that punishes you if you're not grinding for experience points. And here's where I almost wrote this game off completely, until something clicked. Underneath the difficulty, it still has that classic Zelda sense of wonder. The music is phenomenal. Some of the best 8-bit tunes ever put out. But here's what most players miss. The experience system actually rewards exploration in a way that the first game didn't. That's a layer of depth most of us never appreciated as kids, so yeah, it might be the black sheep, but it's a fascinating one. And coming in at number 9 is a game that perfected vampire hunting on the NES, Castlvania III, Dracula's Curse. This was the third and last one on the console, and because it came out so late, a lot of people actually missed it when it was new. But the people who went back to find it, they discovered a masterpiece. After the weird kind of RPG elements seen in Castlevania II, this one goes back to being a hardcore, linear platformer. But here's where it gets even more interesting. It wasn't exactly straightforward. You had branching pathways. You could recruit different characters to play, each with their own unique abilities. Do you take the upper path with the guy who can climb walls, or the lower path with the sorceress? It gave the game this massive replayability that was unheard of at the time. But here's the thing that blew my mind when I replayed it. The soundtrack uses the special chip that most NES games didn't have access to. It actually sounds richer and fuller. That's why the music still gives you chills. It's polished, it's memorable, and it's arguably the best 8-bit Castlevania experience you can have. But we're just getting warmed up. Trivia moment. Here's something wild about the machine itself. After the video game crash of 1983, the word video game was toxic in America. Stores didn't want to touch them. So when Nintendo brought the Famicom over from Japan, they did something brilliant. They completely rebranded it. They called it an entertainment system. They made it look like a VCR. They called the cartridges game packs. They even marketed it in the toy section, not the electronic section. They basically tricked America into trusting video games again, and it worked. That kind of creative problem solving? That's the exact mindset that gave us so many of these classics. Speaking of which, let's look at a game that pushed the hardware in a completely different direction. Number 8 is a fascinating piece of video game history, the American version of Super Mario Bros. 2. You know the story, right? In Japan, they got a different Mario 2, and it was brutally hard. Basically just more of the first game. Nintendo of America looked at it and said, our players are going to hate this, it's too frustrating. So they did something insane. They took an existing Japanese game called Doki Doki Panic, ripped the characters out, and replaced them with Mario, Luigi, Toad, and Princess Peach. What they ended up with was completely unique. Instead of jumping on heads, you were pulling plants out of the ground and throwing them at enemies. Instead of Bowser, your final boss was a frog named Wart. The music was quirky, the gameplay was different, and people loved it. But here's the thing a lot of fans don't realize. Because it was a reskin of another game, the physics are totally different from any other Mario game. It's floatier, which makes it feel unique. But it also means if you go back to it expecting the tight controls of Mario 1, you're in for a surprise. That surprise actually ruined the game for me at first, until I accepted it as its own thing. Then it clicked. It's a wonderful accident that gave us a classic. Now, let's talk about a game that took us in the complete opposite direction, pure isolation. So at number 7, we have a game that's all about one thing, atmosphere. And I'm talking about Metroid. You're alone, completely alone, dropped into the eerie, deep corridors of Planet Zebes with nothing but a weak gun and your wits. You have to hunt around for upgrades to take down the space pirates. And this game didn't hold your hand. It was complex. It was non-linear. It created a genre, the Metroidvania, by forcing you to explore, to get lost and find secrets. You had to bomb every wall. You had to backtrack for hours. And the payoff? There were actually 5 different endings with different visuals of Samus, depending on how fast you were. And if you were fast enough, you got that incredible surprise reveal that Samus was a woman. That moment stunned people. It was a huge deal at the time. But here's what I worried about going back. Would the backtracking feel too tedious now? Would getting lost just frustrate me instead of intriguing me? And the answer surprised me. The game is actually shorter than you remember. Once you know the layout, you can blast through it in under an hour. That tight design, where every room serves a purpose, is what makes conquering it feel so incredible. But the journey to get there, that's where things got complicated. Trivia moment. Nintendo put a special lockout chip inside the console called the 10 NES. It was designed to prevent unlicensed games from working. If a publisher wanted to make games for the NES, they had to go through Nintendo and follow their rules. But companies like Tengen got sick of it. They reverse engineered the chip, copied the technical schematics, and started releasing unlicensed games anyway. Nintendo sued. It was a full-blown legal war, all because of a tiny piece of silicon designed to keep control of the library. And that control freak mentality actually gave us some of the most polished games on the system. And one of the best examples of that polish is up next. Number 6 is Contra. Konami was to the NES, what Activision was to the Atari 2600. They pushed the 8-bit hardware to the max, and Contra is the best example. This was a port of an arcade game, and seeing it run on a CRT TV in the late 80s was a real sight to behold. You have run-and-gun action through 6 scrolling stages, plus those pseudo-3D stages where the camera is behind your back. The weapons are pure destruction. The spread gun is still one of the greatest video game power-ups of all time, and it was punishingly difficult. But here's the secret that changed everything for kids back then. The Konami code. I mean, who could ever forget? Up, up, down, down, left, right, BA, start. 30 lives. That code turned an impossible game into the greatest co-op experience on the console. And if you play this with a friend, you know exactly what I mean. I'll never forget the first time sitting there in my friend's basement, dying constantly, but still having the time of our lives. And while we were blasting away, I could hear that Madonna song, Borderline, drifting down from his sister's bedroom upstairs. So now, 35 years later, it's kind of funny that anytime I hear that song, I instinctively think back to the moment of that fun, especially hosing down everything on screen with that spread gun. And here's the thing. I tried playing it solo recently, no code, just to see if I still had the skills, and I didn't make it past the third stage. But that's the beauty of it. The challenge is still there, waiting for you. And that brings me to a game that challenged us in a completely different way. Coming in at number 5 is the game that made us all feel like little champions, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out! This game also started in the arcade, but when it came to the NES, they leaned hard into the cartoony charm. You play as Little Mac, a small guy trying to take down giants. And its genius is that it won't let you win by just button mashing. It's a rhythm game designed as a boxing game. You have to watch your opponent's tells, and then dodge at the right moment, and land the perfect punch. Every opponent had a personality, from Glass Joe to King Hippo, and if you were lucky enough to make it to the end, you had to face Mike Tyson himself. The feeling of finally knocking him down for the first time, that was a rite of passage, but going back, I was terrified this game would feel too simple. Would I see through the patterns immediately? Would the magic be gone? It turns out no. The timing is so precise, so perfectly tuned, that it still demands your full attention. You can't half play this game, and that's exactly why it holds up. Trivia moment. And speaking of Punch-Out, here's something you probably missed. You know the referee in the ring? Take a closer look at him next time you play. That's Mario, seriously. A young developer at Nintendo drew Mario into the referee sprite without asking permission. Back then, there wasn't really an approval process for using Mario's image. Shigeru Miyamoto himself admitted it slipped right past his check. And for years, Mario was just standing there in the corner of the ring, refereeing fights, and most of us never even noticed. That kind of hidden detail, that's what makes revisiting these games so rewarding. And speaking of games you think you know everything about, for number 4, Super Mario Bros., the one that started it all. We have to talk about what this game actually did. For a lot of us, it might have been the first time we'd ever seen a game that scrolled to the side as you walked. That was magic. It was also the first time we experienced those little moments, grabbing a mushroom and growing big, going down a pipe to a secret underground area, or grabbing a star and becoming invincible. The core mechanic was jumping, and they perfected it. The controls are so tight and responsive that it's still playable today. But here's what we take for granted now. This game literally saved the video game industry after the crash of 1983. It was the killer app that made the NES a must-have. And without it, we might not even be having this conversation. And here's the honest truth I discovered while replaying it. It's shorter than you remember. Much shorter. You can blast through it in 20 minutes if you know what you're doing. That's not a criticism, that's actually a feature. It's designed to be beaten in one sitting, over and over, each time trying to find more secrets. So the real question is, what could possibly be better than the game that saved gaming? Well, 3 things apparently, and they each push the hardware in ways the first Mario never could. At number 3, we have Mega Man 2. This is the one. The peak of the Blue Bomber. Here's a fact that blows my mind. Capcom didn't want to make a sequel because the first game didn't sell too well. But one programmer on the team insisted, and his team cranked out this game in under 5 months, and what they created is perfection. You choose the stage, you beat the boss, you steal their weapon, and you use that weapon against the next boss. It added a layer of strategy that was totally new. The colors popped, the sprites were huge and detailed, and the music, I mean, come on! The Dr. Wily stages? It's some of the best video game music ever composed. It's almost like a soundtrack album that came with a free game attached. But here's what I noticed playing it today that I missed as a kid. The difficulty curve is actually broken. Some stages are brutally hard, and others are surprisingly easy. That inconsistency should ruin the game, but it doesn't. Because the highs are so high, the music is so good, the weapons are so creative, that you forgive its flaws. If you haven't heard the soundtrack recently, go listen to it. It holds up. And that brings us to the next game that defined adventure for an entire generation. Number 2 is the game that taught us what adventure really meant, The Legend of Zelda. Nintendo believed in this one so much that they made the cartridge gold, and it drove us crazy with desire. This was the first time many of us had ever played a game that was open-ended. You were dropped into this big world with a sword and a shield. You had to explore, burn down bushes, bomb walls, and find the dungeons yourself. There was no hand-holding. It was mysterious and magical. And because it had a battery save, you didn't have to write down a 20-digit password. You could just continue your quest. For many people, this was their first action RPG, and it was a completely immersive experience. And here's the thing that surprised me going back. It's actually kind of small. The overworld, the dungeons, they're compact by modern standards, but that compactness is what makes it replayable. Every screen is memorable. Every secret is thoughtfully placed. You're not wandering empty space, you're exploring a carefully crafted puzzle box. So, if Zelda is the timeless masterpiece, what could possibly beat it? Only the game that took everything great about Mario and cranked it up to 11. But first, we need to pay respect to some honorable mentions that barely missed the cut. You had Castlevania, the original. Yeah, it's older, a little slower than its sequels, but man, that monster movie atmosphere. Fighting mummies and Frankenstein, it's pure gothic charm. Kirby's Adventure. It's vibrant, it's colorful, and introduced Kirby's copy ability. Here's what surprised me playing it today. The animation is really smooth and almost doesn't even feel like an NES game. So finally, let's take a closer look at the number 1 NES game of all time, and to me, it wasn't even close.
1. Go.
It's Super Mario Bros. 3. This game is pure, unadulterated fun. It took everything great about the first one and amplified it. So first, you have the world map. It gave you a sense of grand adventure and let you choose which path to take. Then you have the power-ups. The raccoon tail let you fly up and find secrets. The frog suit let you swim. The Hammer Bros suit let you throw hammers, and of course, the Tanuki suit, which let you fly and float. There were mini-games, enemy forts, and airships. Every world had a totally different theme. And to make this happen, Nintendo put a special MMC3 chip inside the cartridge to push the NES graphics hardware past its limits. But here's what I worried about. Would the flying mechanics feel clunky now? Would the world map feel limiting? The answer is no, and here's why. The physics are so perfectly tuned that flying actually feels intuitive. The world map gives you meaningful choices without overwhelming you. And the secrets? I still discovered things I'd never seen before. That's the mark of a masterpiece. It keeps giving, even more than 30 years later. It was the peak of what the NES could do, and to this day, it's considered by critics and fans alike as the ultimate NES experience. So, there it is, my top 10. But I know you've got opinions. What game did I snub? What game should I have bumped out to make room? Tell me in the comments. Which of these would you still defend to the end? If this throwback to the good times of when life in video games was something else, then hitting that like button is the best way to let me know. And if you want to see more about the games we enjoyed in our childhoods, make sure you're subscribed. Alright my friends, this is the Retro Gaming Boss signing out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.